Hey everybody, welcome back to homerecordingmadeeasy.com and here on my YouTube channel, and this is going to be our part one of our dedicated UF8 solid state logic UF8 series of videos where I'm going to walk you through in this video through the controls. We're going to show you some of the features and functions, and there's going to be certain parts of this UF8 that we're going to do dedicated videos for. So this video is not an hour long. However, there'll be timestamps below so you can navigate through this video. And then over the next several videos, we're going to go through all the features and functions of the UF8, how it kind of works with the DAW, and then we're going to do some mixing demonstration as well so you get a feel for how this works. Now, if you have not seen the unboxing video of this along with the UC1, go check the link in the description box below. There's a playlist that includes all the UC1 videos I've done, plus it'll include all of these UF8 videos. So that's what we're going to do in this video today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos that are coming up on the channel. And if this video helps you in any way, shape, or form, consider hitting the thanks button, beneath this video. Also, if you'd like to purchase a UF8 or a UC1 by Solid State Logic, they're fantastic products, I'll tell you that. Click the link in the description box below. That is my Sweetwater affiliate link. And when you do that and you use that link at any time for any reason, 365 days a year, you support what I do here, and I greatly appreciate it. And last but not least, full disclosure, I want to thank again Sweetwater, along with Solid State Logic, for sending me the UF8 so I could bring this review to you. But as I say in all the videos, they did not pay me for the video. They do not get a chance to see the video before it goes live. And you know Uncle Dave is going to be real straight with you about the way this thing works or doesn't work in certain areas. So you can rest assured of that. So thank you, Sweetwater, and thank you, Solid State Logic, two of my favorite companies, and I love Solid State Logic, as you can see over my shoulder. Maybe you can't. I have an SSL origin, so I'm a big supporter of Solid State Logic. Anyway, here we are with the UF8. So first thing we want to do, and we did this in the UC1 video, and I encourage you to go check that out, part one of the UC1 video, where you go out to the Solid State Logic website, make sure you register your UF8 with the serial number, and also make sure you download all the additional software. The UF8 comes with both 3 plugins. It comes with the 4KB channel strip. It comes with channel strip 2, which is based on the 9000J, as well as the G series bus compressor. All of that can be controlled from the UF8 as well as the UC1, so you want to make sure you download that. And more importantly, I'll stress this a few times, I'm sure, in this video, you want to download the user manual for this. The way I do these videos, as you may or may not know, I've said this before in other videos, that typically what I do with these videos is I get them out of the box, I plug them in, make sure they work, and then I kind of turn the camera on and we learn them in real time together, because I want you to see what your experience can be like when you first get this thing home into your studio. I don't spend a lot of time with these products learning all the nooks and crannies and then bringing you the review. There are plenty of other channels out there that do that. I want you to see a real world practical experience. How quickly can you get on with one of these products? And I did that with the UC1. This particular product, because the user manual was so critical in learning a lot of the features and functions, and I'm still stumbling over this, you got to kind of really get into this thing and memorize what everything kind of does. I spent probably a half a day with this before I started recording this video so I can make this video somewhat cohesive for you. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you download the manual, keep it open on your screen, and read along with the DAW that you use, because a lot of the buttons on here will function differently depending on what DAW you're using. You could see on the screen in front of you, we're using Studio One version 6. But if you're using Pro Tools or Cubase or Ableton or Logic or Luna, Universal Audio Luna, some of these functions will be different. Some will be the same, some will be different. So unlike with the UC1, where you really don't need the user manual, it's pretty self-explanatory, this one you do. At least I did. So keep that in mind. So let's start with just walking through the controls here, and I'll show you some of the things that this does, and then I'll tell you where we're going to do some dedicated videos. So if we start in the top left-hand corner, we have these 7 buttons here. The first top left-hand corner's layer, we have 3 layers, 1, 2, and 3. Underneath that, we have a 360 button, and let me show you what the layers, and then right next to that, these 3 quick keys do. So if I hit the 360 software, it's going to open up here. And our layer buttons are up here. We want to make sure we're down here on the UF8. Okay, layer 1, you're going to pick your DAW. Mine is Studio One, but you can see that there's other DAWs you'll be able to choose from. Layer 2, I chose the plugin mixer, and that is the mix to mix with inside of the 360 software, which we're going to do in a dedicated video. And in layer 3, again, you can have layer 3. Now, the reason why it only shows Studio One here is because if I come up here to our cogwheel in the 360 software, I chose my DAW as my Studio One, excuse me, as my DAW configuration. But if I use this drop-down box, you could pick any one of the DAWs that you use. You want to do that inside of this little cogwheel first. And then once you do that, you come back down here to the UF8 and you'll see that Studio One is here on layer 1. Layer 2, again, will be the 360 software. We'll check off that later. Layer 3, I don't have anything here, but if you had another DAW, if you were using one, you can choose that as well. So that is what the layers do. So you want to make sure that you set that up before you get started. Next to that, we have our quick keys. Now, our quick keys are down here in the center part of this screen here. This is where you can program different common functions that you do all the time inside of your DAW. So for Studio One, it already comes pre-programmed as key 1 is going to open and close the mixer or the console. Key number 2 is going to add an insert, and key number 3 is going to open and close the plugin window. You can see that here. Now you can change that just by clicking, let's say, key number 1. We can click this little pencil, and there's a few choices that you have here. If you want it to be a DAW command, you can click, you make sure your DAW command is checked off, and you'll see all the different functions that you can do here inside of the DAW. Now, it's not every function. You can't add functions to this. One of the limitations, I believe, of the UF8 is I wish there were more DAW commands, but they have all the basic stuff here, so you could change it to anything you want. You can also change it to a keyboard command. So if you wanted to have a keyboard command here, you can do that. Or if you don't want it to do anything, you can click none. Okay, so that's how you do that. So you can program your quick keys to do that, and that's done right down here in the quick key section for unit 1, because we only have one unit. If you had 2 of these together, it would show both units. Okay, so that's how you do the quick keys, and then you open and close this 360 software just by hitting this button. Pretty self-explanatory. So if I close this now and I'm back in Studio One, if I go to quick key number 1, you'll see it open and closes my mixer. If I go to quick key number 2, it's going to add an insert if I wanted to do that, right? And then if I want to go to number 3, it's going to open and close the plugin. Now, what I've done for this demonstration is on track number 1 here, our kick track, I've added some plugins and some effect sends, and you'll see why in a bit. But this will open and close the last plugin window that I had opened. And if I were to select my track here, you'll see that it open and closes the plugin window, which is really cool. Okay, so that's this top section here. Let's close that. Now, if you want to know how you cycle through the plugins here, because we opened up, this is the last plugin we opened, the last insert, but you'll see there's 3 inserts here. You could just come down here in this section and you can hit the page button, and that will cycle through the inserts. Okay, so here is the first insert on this track is the 4KB. The second insert is the Pro Q EQ by PreSonus, and the third one is the EQ by SSL. I'm going to show you in a separate video how to program these plugins so you can control all your plugins from the encoders here on the UF8. So stay tuned to the next video for that. Okay, so that opens and closes the plugin window. Down here along this left-hand side where I showed you how to page over or cycle through the inserts, we have our send and plugin section. This has to do with our sends and with our VPOTs, and we're going to do a separate video on this. Okay, so we're gonna do a separate video on how this kind of works. But I showed you what the page buttons do. The page buttons will again cycle through the selected channels inserts. Okay, we're going to close that. We have a flip here where we can hit our flip button, and that is going to flip between what the faders and the encoders do. So like, for example, on track 1 here, we go back to regular. The fader will control the fader on the channel. That's pretty self-explanatory. And the coder will control the pan pot. You can see the pan there on the kick drum working, right? If I flip this, now the fader controls the pan and the encoder controls the fader. If you wanted to do that. In Studio One, that's what it does, okay? Down along this section here, we have our automation section. Again, we're on our selected track here. We have it off. We can, if you watch track 1, where that's highlighted in the console in Studio One, We can go to read, we can go to write, we can go to trim, which is a deactivated button in Studio One. This is a Pro Tools function. We can go to latch and we can go to touch. So our automation is right here, pretty handy. That's the left side here. Okay, if we look in the middle here, obviously this is where all the magic kind of happens. We have each one of our tracks here has a solo, has a cut or a mute, and where we track select right here. Okay, we have our fader here, which again is all motorized, touch sensitive, and like I've said, very, 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 very smooth, very responsive, absolutely no latency whatsoever. This does a really good job no matter how quick I move that fader. You can see it on the screen. It responds perfectly, no lag, no latency at all. Above each one of the tracks, we have a beautiful LCD screen where it has the track name. You may not be able to see that on the camera too well. We have our value for our fader here. You can see how many dBs we're turning it up and down. Okay. And then again, we have our pan pot here in the center. That's across all here. So all 8 tracks are identical, obviously. Along the top here, we have our soft keys. These keys along the top. And again, we're going to do a dedicated video on how the soft keys work, how to program them, what they do. We're going to do that in the next video. Okay. So this is where all our soft keys are. And you'll see each one of the soft keys, like here, you'll see above this LCD, this is the kick track. It'll say send. Above our snare top, it says insert bypass. And then above the snare bottom, it says track. And again, we'll walk through that in the next video. On the right-hand side, again, we have our soft keys in the top right-hand corner. The first button says VPOT. And again, as I said, we're going to do that in the next video. And then we have our soft keys. And what our soft keys do, that is this stuff right here, these 8 buttons across the top. Okay. So we have 5 banks of soft keys times 8 buttons is 40 commands that we can program to do different things. And again, you do that by opening up our 360 software, and you will see right here, here's our soft keys. We have user bank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that corresponds with these soft key buttons on the top right-hand corner of the UF8. And then each one of these keys, what do you want it to do? And again, you can click the pencil and you can edit this. And again, the DAW functions are going to be specific to your particular DAW, and at least with Studio One, there's not a lot of them. So I got to be honest, there is not 40 commands in here that I would program. But you can also do keyboard commands, shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, which I did one. I'll show you that in a bit, where I actually did one of my keyboard commands there. Or you can have nothing at all. So let's say you didn't want, if we're on soft key bank 1, let's go to see the last one here. You may not be able to see this well, but you'll see there's nothing on here. There's no command for this particular soft key, because that was a bank 1 key number 8. So if I go to bank 1 key 8, you'll see it says none, it's blank. So therefore it's blank up here. So what I personally do is, because I only really use the first bank of soft keys, I don't have that many commands I want to program to it. So the rest of them, when we go to bank 2, you can make all these things, click over here, you could have all these things say none and just be blank, so that it doesn't clutter up the screen if you wanted to do that. But that's our soft key section. And again, we hit our 360 button, we'll close the 360. So again, we're going to do a dedicated video on the VPOT, and we're going to do dedicated video on soft key stuff. Okay. Underneath that, we have our pan. So we want to make sure that's lit up, and it'll show the track names here, and that will allow all of our panning on each one of our encoders, changes the panning. The fine button here for Studio One is a solo clear function. You can't change it, but for every DAW, it's going to be a little different. It's not fine resolution on the fader. It's solo clear. It's pre-mapped. You don't change it. Not something that I would use, but again, that's going to be DAW specific. Underneath that, we have our selection mode here. Okay. So, when we, right now, most times you're going to be under normal, where if you're under normal, what that means is as you select your tracks, it's going to act like you would expect it to. We're hitting the select button on our tracks and it's following along in Studio One, which is really great. And if we hit our solo button, it's soloing. We hit our cut button, it's muting. That's going to be, the normal way. If we go to the center here, we hit record. What that's going to allow you to do is, if you have, let's say on track 1, if I hit select, you're going to see that it arms the track. You see that down here on the kick track here, over here on this kick track, click here. Okay, when I hit track select, it's actually arming the track to record because I'm in record mode, which is pretty handy, I suppose, because if you were in normal mode and you select the track, if this wasn't lit up, you'd have to use your mouse to kind of click on it, but you can do it just by being in record mode, hit select, and that's going to arm this track for recording, which is kind of neat, I suppose. That's pretty cool, okay? And again, next to that, we have the auto 0 button. This is, again, you'll see it's grayed out with Studio One. It doesn't work. It's not a button that you can program. Every DAW is going to be a little different. Again, a couple of the things that I don't like about the UF8 is that these buttons that are not active in Studio One, you can't, I don't know of a way. Again, if anyone knows any differently, correct me in the comment section. I don't know a way. I wish I could turn these buttons into something, but you can't. But then again, if you had a function you wanted to do, you could do it on your soft keys. As I said, you have 40 soft keys that you can program, but they're not active for Studio One. Underneath this, we have our channel jog wheel here. So again, when we're in normal mode here, if we don't have any of the buttons underneath it pressed, as I change this, you'll see on the UF8, maybe you'll see it, maybe you won't, you'll see some of the faders moving. It's selecting and it's advancing the tracks one at a time on the UF8. However, you'll notice in Studio One, it doesn't advance in Studio One. So this does not follow the screen in Studio One. And if you've listened to any of my other controller video series, the Softtube or the QCon or the Studio PreSonus fader port, I always say one of the biggest downfalls of this is that when you go and you do something on the hardware, it doesn't reflect on the screen. Softtube Console 1, it does that beautifully. I don't know why it works with Softtube Console 1, but does not work with any other DAW controller. Every DAW controller will tell you it's not the function of their product. It has to do with Studio One or whatever DAW. So your DAW, when you turn the navigation and it advances your tracks, maybe it will advance in your console, whether it's Cubase, Pro Tools, Ableton, what have you. It does not do that in Studio One. It's one of my dislikes of this particular product working well with the DAW. So be aware of that. And that'll come up again at the end of the series when I do my final likes and dislikes video that I do for all these controllers. But that's what that does. Right? So go back. So the kick track is number 1. Okay, so that's what that does, and you can do one at a time. Okay? Now, underneath it, we have 3 buttons. We hit navigation. What that's going to do, if I close my mixer here so you can see it in Studio One, now the jog wheel becomes a playhead scroll, which is kind of nice. Okay, when you're under navigation, when you take off navigation, it is simply track movement on the UF8. Okay, nudge, again, Pro Tools function, doesn't work with Studio One. Focus, I don't know what that does. I think that's a Pro Tools function. I have no idea what this does. I can't figure it out, but that's what that is. Again, read the manual for your particular DAW. Okay. Now, underneath that, we have banks. So we can we can advance the faders in our UF8 one at a time with the wheel, or we could do it in banks of 8. That's pretty standard. But once again, does not follow in Studio One. Okay, just be aware of that. Okay, last but not least, we have our little arrow section down here, which is pretty cool. When the center button is not lit, these are track select. Now, when I do it here, you'll see that it advances in the console in Studio One. Look at that. Select tracks, left, right, it works. But guess what doesn't happen? It advances in Studio One, but it does not move the faders on the UF8. So let's say we go to track 9, which would be, track 9 would be our overheads, which should show up on track 1. Boom, 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 boom. Here's track 9. But we're still showing track 1 here on the UF8. So once again, I'm going to repeat this over and over because this is the number one thing that comes up when I see other videos. This does not follow the console in Studio One, and what you do in the console in Studio One does not always follow on the UF8, but that's track select. Okay? So there you go. Left and right. Up and down, we'll do the same thing. Track select. Okay? It's pretty handy. If you hit the button in the center, this is our zoom, and this will zoom in and out on our timeline, which is really handy for Studio One users. Or it will increase and shrink the track size, which is really handy. That's by hitting this center button. Okay? And that is the basic walkthrough of the UF8. It's got a ton of stuff here. It's got most of the functions here. It feels really good. Everything feels good. It feels high quality, as I said in the unboxing video. And there's a lot of customization that you can do with the soft keys and the quick keys and the VP. And we're going to get into all that in the next video. So that's it for this video. That's our basic walkthrough. So I highly recommend, again, you register your hardware, download all your plugins. So you get the free plugins here. You get your 4KB, the channel strip, and the G series bus compressor. Okay. And make sure you download your manual and read that manual. It's really well laid out, but read it for your DAW so you know what these buttons do, okay? So in the next video, we're going to take a look at the VPOTs, what those do. We're going to take a look at how we do our soft keys, and we're also going to take a look at how we program a third-party plugin like this one here, where you see that I've already... if I hit plugin, I've already mapped all of these. This works really, really well. I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video. So I hope you found this walkthrough and introduction to the UF8 helpful to you. Please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you see the next set of videos in the series for the UF8. And by the way, go back and watch all the videos I did for the UC1. And coming up in the near future, depending on when you're watching this video, it may already be done. We're going to do a series of videos with the UF8 and the UC1 working together as a unit, which is really, really cool. Each one of those things do something great on its own, but when you put them together, it's a really great 1-2 combination. So make sure you check the link in the description box below for the playlist. And once again, if you want to purchase a UF8 or a UC1 or anything else for that matter, use the link in the description box below. That's my affiliate link with Sweetwater. And I would tell you to copy and paste that link onto your desktop. So anytime you go to Sweetwater, you use that link. Anything you purchase, it really does help. And I truly, truly appreciate it. And once again, thank you so much to Sweetwater and Solid State Logic for sending me this UF8 for me to review for you. Now, I don't know if I said at the beginning of the video, but I'll say it here. I want to give you something for free here for sticking around to the end of the video. So again, we're talking about mixing here with UF8, UC1. All month, we're talking about mixing inside of our DAW. If you've never been to homerecordingmadeeasy.com before, make sure you go there because I want to give you a free mixing course. It's right on the homepage. You can't miss it. It's a 90-minute course. It's worth $100. It's my gift to you just for visiting homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Once you take that course, if you say, you know what, I really like Dave's style of teaching, and I know you're going to love Uncle Dave's style of teaching, I want to check out some of his other paid training courses. That's awesome. I want to give you a discount to take 25% off any course on my website. That coupon code is YouTube25. You take that and put it in checkout, it'll take 25% off. All that information, again, will be in the description box below. Make sure you go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. And if you really want to get into mixing and you really want to learn the craft of mixing in a very non-technical way, perfect for beginners and intermediates, check out what I have going on at mixingmadeeasy.net. That's my mixing training membership website. Say that 3 times fast. Again, all the links will be in the description box below. And until the next video with the UF8, I've been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com, mixingmadeeasy.net. Thank you so very much for watching me today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.